Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with celebrated jazz saxophonist Eric Person. We talked to him from his home base during another variant COVID rage in America on January 12, 2022, and we talked about how he's been coping with the world now, his new 2022 CD, Blue Vision, and so much more. In 1982, he moved to New York City from St. Louis, Missouri, and quickly hooked up with legendary drummer Chico Hamilton. That lasted for 15 years, and he went all over the U.S., Europe, Japan, and South America. He also spent a lot of time with Dave Holland and so many others. Dig this story.
Hey, thank you for taking a minute out to Neon Jazz today. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.
Man, I love Blue Vision. Wonderful album. And, you know, as this whole COVID thing undulates, I think there hasn't been a moment during this time where people have appreciated and needed new music in their lives. So talk to me a little bit about, first and foremost, the timing of this coming out.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you enjoyed the record. The time of the record is interesting because the initial tracks were recorded in the summer of 2018, but I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree. COVID hit. I was like, this didn't feel like the right time to release it. So let a couple of years into this roll by, and then I felt like it's the right time, you know.
So what are you hoping the listener gets from this experience? I mean, I know how I felt when I listened to this, but overall, you know, what do you hope this project does for the listener?
I think for me, I would like the listener to take away that, you know, the blues is an important element to the music, and it can always be transformed or interpreted in different ways by different performers. So that's where the name kind of comes from. It's a visionary look at the blues, you know, and connecting, two different generation of musicians being, you know, Houston and myself.
You know, you're from St. Louis and you have roots there, and it's interesting because, you know, I don't know how many people realize this, but a lot of those early years at Kansas City when it was roaring, I mean, the blues was very pervasive in the sound that was happening then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Well, I was going to just add that, a lot of modern musicians, you know, in some kind of way many modern musicians, jazz musicians have kind of discarded the blues. I've never felt that, you know, that was part of the music that should have been left behind. And so, just looking back at some of my other records, I don't know that blues is emphasized as much as I like playing it. That was something I wanted to bring out on this record. And, you know, working alongside Houston, you know, he's always been about, hey, man, you know, let's do this record, but don't forget the blues, you know. So it was something he after hearing that quite a bit, I was just like, you know what, he has a point there. You know, it's like, that's the power element of the music, you know. That's the earthy, powerful element of the music that should never be left behind. Now everybody doesn't have to interpret the blues the same way, but it shouldn't be left behind.
So before we depart this whole COVID notion here, you know, we've gone back and forth with all of this, and now we're back in the thick of a variant. What have you learned about yourself during this time of self-reflection that's going to make you stronger as we hopefully move forward and things open up in 2022?
I would say that I've had to adapt, you know, when gigs were not there, I had to do other things, you know, to, keep the bills paid, you know, and, you know, I've been in New York, for, close to 40 years. This year it'd be my 40th year. And I look back and I was like, you know, I've been mainly a musician all those years, and I've kind of rolled with the punches, you know, but this added another kind of quirk in everything where it was like I had to dig deep, you know, to just kind of keep things rolling along and just kind of keep in my creative mindset, you know, because it's easy for a musician to not have gigs and then fall into shutdown mode. Like, oh, I don't have any gigs, so I'm not going to practice. I don't have any gigs, so I'm not going to work on tunes. I don't have any gigs, so, you know, let me just, you know, lay back. It's like, no, that's a time that you know, reassess and maybe look at some other things that you or that he or she might not have delved into. So I've done some of that. I got I've got some more recordings actually that I'm starting to delve into for the next releases, because with this CD being delayed, there's other music that's been delayed. So, you know.
So let's go back to St. Louis. Let's go back to the early years of your life. Talk to me a little bit about how jazz really sank into your bones and how that became your life.
You know, my father, you know, Thomas Person, he played saxophone, and he taught me when I was 7, one thing leading to the next. And then I was studying at different schools and, you know, music store teachers and all that. And when I actually got out to the Normandy School District, which is out in St. Louis County, in the grade school, the junior high, and the high school had all really strong music programs. You know, I was practicing at home and playing with the records and stuff. And so when it was like I joined the jazz band in 7th and 8th grade, I took my first solos then, and then when I got to high school, you know, Bob Bogus, he was the teacher there, and he was really into jazz, and I joined the jazz bands, and it was just exciting. It was an exciting time for me, you know, because I immersed myself in music like most of my day. You know, actually most of my day was started like 6:30 in the morning, you know, doing the jazz band rehearsals or the marching band rehearsal. During school, I would have some, you know, band, you know, then, you know, away from school, I was in some funk bands, and I did duo with a guitar player and played at the Moose Lounge, and, you know, so I was just really kind of gearing up for something. And at some point, you know, I think it might have been after I got a scholarship to play it or to go to the Janie Aebersold jazz camp, that it lit me up where I was like, I want to go to New York. I think that's the next move for me. So it was kind of like a whirlwind number of years that led up to me going to New York for sure.
So you get to New York, and speaking of whirlwind, a year later, you hook up with Chico Hamilton. That had to be a huge leap for you.
Chico was a guy who found talent. You know, Eric Dolphy, you know, he started with him. Yeah, Chico was a discoverer of talent. You know, Eric Dolphy started with him, many others, Charles Lloyd. And so I felt honored to work with Chico. And it was a new kind of situation, you know, for me. You know, probably the first really serious musical band experience, you know, like going on the road and then ultimately recording with him. I know I did a 9-week European tour with him, you know, and so that was great. You know, it was a good start for me, you know. And I wanted to work with Chico off and on for about 15 years.
Talk to me a little bit about the travel. You know, now that we've kind of been in this downturn, you know, you saw a lot of the world and recorded a lot of music. What has that been like for you? What's been the best part of traveling and being able to do what you love natively, which is music, but get to see the rest of the world?
It's great to travel. I haven't traveled that much the last few years, but actually I'm kind of working on doing more gigs around the country and hopefully Europe, you know. I actually have a situation where I live is a pretty vital local scene, and also the New York scene. So I keep pretty busy for the most part. But long tours, as far as like, you know, like 5 and 6 week tours, that actually hasn't been my reality for quite a while. But it would be nice for it to happen. Yeah, I actually like it when I can go out for like, you know, 3 or 4 days and come back home, recharge, go out for another couple of days, recharge. Those 5 and 6 week tours, they can kind of, you know, they can kind of wear on you.
So Dave Holland was also a band that you were in for a while, and he's a very veteran, esteemed musician. What did you learn from Dave?
Dave, you know, it was a great experience, you know, and actually after I worked with Chico and Another guy I was working with after I first came to New York, Ronald Shannon Jackson. I had like a little period where I kind of wanted to reassess what I was doing. I worked with another guy, going to Europe, Kelvin Bell. He's actually from St. Louis. And then it was actually, working. I got the gig with, Dave. And that's a funny story, actually, but or interesting story. Working with Dave is, it's serious music. And one of the things that gig had that was close to, like Chico and Shannon's music for me was that whatever I did, I felt like I fit right in. I didn't have to change anything, or it didn't not feel perfect for me. So that was a great experience. It just felt perfect, like a perfect fitting glove or something, And, again, it was serious music. So it challenged me, helped me grow. And that's one of the things I like from working with certain musicians. When I feel like I can contribute and it's a collaborative effort and I feel like I can grow, then I feel complete.
So when you were growing up, when you were younger, what was the first live jazz show you saw that really blew you away?
The first one I saw was Count Basie, and it was my father took me, to hear his orchestra, and it was at the Kiel Opera House. I still remember it to this day because it was really powerful seeing that band, and Jimmy Forrest, who was from St. Louis, he was playing in that band, and he was a great soloist. And I remember he did Body and Soul, and he took this long cadenza, and he hit some high note that he cracked a high note or whatever, and people were like laughing and stuff. It was like a humorous thing, but it was like the whole experience of seeing these guys, and the power of the music, and they was just unified. I remember Butch Morris, the drummer, he was fantastic. When I used to go and see bands at that time, I used to always go up and talk to the musicians, And so I talked to Freddie Green, the guitar player. I remember asking him, hey, why didn't you play any solos? And he said, that's not my role, And so I thought that was interesting. But I might even talk to some other guys. But I used to go up, and I remember I saw Woody Shaw, and I met those guys when they first came, and that was another concert that blew me away. Woody Shaw and Art Ensemble Chicago. I think those were like my first concerts. Count Basie, Woody Shaw, Art Ensemble Chicago, and they're all very, very different from each other. And I think that's what has always came out in my music. I've always had a lot of different influences. Listening things I listen to that I like. So yeah, but that Count Basie,
Let's say tonight you have a dream. You run into your younger self around the time that you were really getting going in New York and starting up, and you could give your younger self one piece of advice based on what you've learned throughout all these years. What would that be? I would just say that this is something I kind of think about often. It's like when I came to New York, it was all so new to me. So it was like I came to New York. I actually didn't have a place to live, when I came, and my mother and father was very trusting of me. I was 19, and actually I was supposed to stay with somebody, a lady that I met the year before when I visited New York, and she would confirm, that you can stay with me, And then one day before I was gonna leave, I said, okay, I'm coming up, tomorrow, like I said, and she was just like, oh, you can't stay here. I was like, what are you talking about? And so I was very trusting. I think I still came to New York anyway. I mean, I was very heartbroken by that, but I think just realizing that saying from that Billie Holiday tune, God bless the child that's got his own. And I really realized that was one of my lessons I had to learn. Whatever you do, just try and make sure you secure your own housing, like, your own
it could be whatever, but it's yours. You don't have to say, oh, I'm borrowing this from this guy, oh, I'm staying with this person, because more often than not, I would just wind up disappointed.
For somebody that's traveled as much as you have and been on so many stages in your life, when things do hopefully get better in this coming year and there's more live performances, what do you hope we all realize about the power of live music that we've been away from largely for almost a year and a half now?
I think people really need to realize that most musicians, it's a calling for them. If they're doing it as a profession, it's in some kind of way it's a calling. It's like they can't really do other things for the most part. It's something that just burns inside of us. So if somebody wants they should think about supporting the music. In whatever way they can. It might be just buying a CD or buying instead of just streaming the musician's music, buying a download or two, because we actually, a lot of the tours I used to do with my own band, I paid the bills with the CD sales. So now that CDs aren't as popular, people might not think that. I mean, that's a bit of revenue that we're missing. That's what I'm saying. So any kind of support, if people can just understand that musicians are really pretty unique in what we do, any level of extra support is fine, great.
So everyone has a perception or an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life, you have a perception. Who do you think you are?
Well, I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor, and the things I've gone through as a musician, as a father, it's helped to make me stronger. And I've actually learned that once I got on my own way, then life could be really pretty good. So that's actually been the thing I've been trying to do, just making sure I don't do anything that I'm going to regret later, just making sure I don't step on my own feet. So I think that's actually one of the reasons I'm feeling so good about this record. I went through a lot of adversity to get it to where it's at, and I'm feeling that the reception is going to be really good to it.
Beautiful. Eric, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. Good luck with the album and the return to the stage. Happy New Year.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in New York City, St. Louis, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Eric for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.